Hey guys, Lost here. Now, not too long ago, about 4 months ago, I reviewed a mod for Arma 3 that had just been released, that had been ported over from Arma 2 to Arma 3. It was extremely alpha, and that was the Unsung Vietnam War mod. At the time, the mod was extremely new to Arma 3, but even then, it still had a lot of content in it. Now, it is finally released to beta. There will be a link to my first review in the description. I'm going to take a look at the beta version of the Unsung Vietnam War mod for Arma 3. If you came here not knowing what it was, or the name didn't speak for itself, it's basically a complete overhaul to make Arma 3 into a Vietnam War era game, which is pretty dang cool. So let's see what this has to offer. It has two maps. The first one is Da Krong Quang Tri Vietnam, and this is the map that came with the alpha version, so let's take a look at that first. This is a large map full of foliage, greenery, shrubbery, as well as military bases, hideouts for the Viet Cong with a river running right through it. If you want to play on a larger scale map with a lot of different terrain, this is definitely a more slightly arid yet full of forest and vegetation with rice fields that you can really get the sense that you're in a war-torn Vietnam, just with so many different things to look at. Now, the major thing I want to point out about this mod is the attention to detail when it comes to the forest and the foliage and the greenery, because it completely encompasses all of kind of what they had to deal with in Vietnam. The helicopters and air support, you cannot see the ground if you're flying in a helicopter. It's just really tough to see. And when you're on the ground as well, you can't see 50 feet in front of you. It is super dense, even on this map, and this is more of the open arid of the two maps. I remember the first time I had heard of this mod and I actually saw a picture of the map. I'm like, this is crazy, the amount of detail that goes into this stuff, because you never really get something with this type of dense forest and this type of detail. I mean, sure, there's a lot of detailed maps, but this really just encompasses the Vietnam era that it's trying to promote. So I know I made it sound like that was just the pinnacle, the highlight of the maps, or of the two maps at least, but this one, if you ever think of the Vietnam War, this is probably the map or you would probably think of. This is the Dong Island Rung Sat, Vietnam. If you are still skeptical about what I mean, I went to the editor and plopped a soldier right on the ground to take a look, and lo and behold, I spawned underneath a tree. I wanted to see if the forest on here was any different than the one on the other map, and, well, it is. It's just as dense, if not more, and it's just a completely forested area. It would be a hell of a time to have to fight in. Now, a major problem for the American soldiers that had to fight in the Vietnam War was the fact that they didn't know the terrain. They never fought in a jungle like this. The United States military was completely new with this area, and I can completely understand from playing this. I think that this encompasses that aspect of it extremely well, because they really do go above and beyond when they were creating these maps. This map is the smaller of the two, and I think this one is honestly much more interesting. There's way more things to it. There is an island with a military base on it that has, bunkhouses for soldiers. There's also rivers that crisscross through it, as well as rice fields. Just, it encompasses the Vietnam War aspect better. Just, it works really well. So moving on, let's see what else this has to offer. This mod adds in the United States military side, as well as the North Vietnamese and guerrilla forces that we had to fight against at the time. Not only does it add in the units you can create scenarios with, it also adds in the weapons, the gear, the vehicles, as well as the ability to create foxholes with the Vietnamese. Now, in the alpha version, there were just hundreds and hundreds of different uniforms and things that you could use with just these slight little variations. Now they've kind of condensed it, they've solidified it, made it a little more accessible, easier to understand about, what is what. Yet even after simplifying it, there is still a lot of options for both sides to completely, create your loadout, create your guy with different gear if you want to just check out and play around with all the stuff that it has to offer, because it has quite a bit to offer. Like I just said, with the alpha, there were so many different options, and that is still true. Even though they've simplified a few things, no two soldiers will be alike. There's so many options with the backpacks, the vests, the outfits, the helmets, the weapons. You can even wear a finger or a cut-off ear necklace, which I think adds a lot of detail. The United States had to adapt to a different style of fighting, and you can definitely tell that with all of the camouflages and the things that you can add to make your guys try to blend in more to the environment that you have to fight in. For example, the camouflage you can give the Vietnamese with this bush here, I really, really like it. It's so funny that you can run around and, be a bush. So a huge part of the United States having to fight in Vietnam was its air supremacy. With not being able to fight on the ground super effectively, we had to carpet bomb, napalm, Agent Orange. We had to just ruin entire sections, and even now they're still feeling out the effects of what had happened there. So the air power is super important, and you can tell that with this mod. There are so many planes, and as you can see as I'm strolling through here, the units that you can put down, there are just, I would guess, a few hundred different units that you can lay down. That was just on the United States side. Here's the Vietnamese side with just as many different types of vehicles, soldiers, planes, helicopters, boats, so many things. It's totally mind-boggling. One thing I wanted to add is that this mod lets you have a freaking flamethrower, and it is devastating. It's probably one of the coolest things I've ever seen. So we're getting to the end. I hope I didn't talk this mod up too much. There are a lot of mods that encompass a lot of militaries and armies from a lot of different countries from around the world, but they don't usually encompass different time periods. There's very few that do that and do that well. I'd say this mod does it fairly well, so I highly recommend you check it out. It is not released yet. I actually got my hands on it a little early before the release, so please don't go asking for the link. I will not give it out, and neither will the creators. As far as the exact release date is concerned, I would think it is coming out in about 2 to 3 weeks. Don't hold my word on that. Like I said, the alpha version I think is still available. It will be fully released though, here in the next few weeks. So again, thank you for watching. I will see you guys later.